Fucking Bornholm is a film. Ralph, put your headphones on. Come on, mate. Snap.
Fucking Bjornholm.
Fucking Bornholm.
Bornholm, not
Yeah,
Born.
there's no J. So fucking Bornholm is what is described, and I think in a way unfairly, I think it's always an unfair label to attach to any film, which is a black comedy. I think it's really unhelpful. Set on a sort of a Danish island in summer, when it's a popular retreat for like bourgeois people from Poland. It's very close to go and have basically a sort of long, I guess like May Day or Easter break. The film itself follows two couples who have done this kind of ritual every year, travel together to this island, stay in caravans and have a kind of smooth, pleasant time. Something happens during this. So obviously, spoiler alert to people out there who haven't seen it yet. Even though we don't really care about spoilers, but whatever. Something happens on this island. It's very dark, and it leads to a series of ramifications and fallout, and dominoes fall and pieces collapse. That leads to, I suppose, a kind of tragicomic finale.
Are we going to say that something happens?
Yeah. So do you want to? I'm going to flip it.
It's going to fall to me.
It's going to fall to you because you're going to relish
that one of the boys,
young boys, he means.
One of the young boys. And it's not clear whose idea this was, but they're playing around in a tent, as young boys do, and one of the young boys puts his willy in the other boy's mouth. His mouth makes
kids do the craziest things.
Makes him blow him off, right?
Basically, so there's basically a transgression happens,
and it's not. It's like very obviously, kids do sort of experiment and play, but it's clearly very upsetting for the boy. But he doesn't really have obviously doesn't have language to really sort of express that properly.
The children are quite mute in this in a lot of ways.
The parents are suddenly appalled and shocked, but of course they don't really know how to. It creates it's like. What's important about the film is that the adults are all having their own sexual crises.
And this becomes a kind of a lens through which that refracts their experiences.
So you have a very long-term couple with their two children, where things are going south, but they're still hanging on. And then you have this guy who's just divorced with his much younger. Go on, pull me on. With his much younger, sort of glamorous. New girl, and it's very nascent, and his son, who he doesn't apparently get to spend very much time with because he has this terrible estrangement with the mother of his child, and so this holiday is a perfect opportunity. Apart from the fact that as soon as they turned up, a bunch of Norwegians kind of have taken their spot, their pitching spot on the
they're Danes,
campsite.
I think.
Danes, sorry, my apologies.
Yeah.
And
don't apologise to me.
And apologise to some nation.
Yeah.
And reprimanding them for drinking cans of beer, and the children, they're just constantly sort of harried.
It's kind of it's like a comedy of bourgeois manners and politeness, and I suppose that the mode that dominates in bourgeois family life is, if not outright repression, then saving face, politeness, and yet still feeling the sting of when boundaries are transgressed. So this is like a more forward person, be it parent, might have dealt with the situation very swiftly and quickly and in a clean way, but because everyone is, like you said, so invested in their own personal, emotional, psychosexual drama, it means that there's no way in which they're ever going to resolve this event.
But it's understandably I don't know. I don't have children, but I don't know exactly how I'd handle something like that. It's pretty tough.
I think that's why she chose like something that was quite shocking. It wasn't just like some genitals were exposed. It was like an actual kind of sexual, proto-sexual act,
like something that you could legitimately cause real trouble for that person, for the victim, right?
But I mean, that's the thing. I think this film swims in the water of Ruben Ostlund a little bit. Like, I think it has very more teeth than
Ruben Ostlund. I was really, because I came to this film seeing in the blur, and it's understandable for a film promoter, especially in the era of the crisis of IP. Where if you want to get your film seen, you sort of have to attach the name of a more established director
A little bit, yeah.
as a sort of reference point for people, so they sort of know what they're in for. And of course, because I'm quite skeptical about Ostlund, particularly his vastly overrated holiday film Force Majeure, which many other people disagree with me on. But I always think Ostlund, his gotcha is always a bit less of a gotcha than he thinks it is. And my favorite Ostlund film is The Square, which I do quite enjoy, because
I think that's because you're in the art world.
Yeah, because it's an inside joke for people who know the subject matter. But otherwise, his contribution to the conversation about class is kind of uninteresting to me. And there's some humor in the early parts.
I think Involuntary is
Triangle of Sadness.
My favorite Ostlund film.
I haven't actually seen that
one. It was really good because it's a series of I guess it's a sort of collage film in a way. There's like a series of, I think, 8 or 7 awkward social situations that unfold, which is something he revels in awkwardnesses that surface particular social tensions and class tensions, but they're much more banal. There's like a birthday party and some people on a bus and things like that, and it flips back and forth between these moments basically as the film progresses, and kind of like edges you towards the peak of the awkwardness, the social awkwardness. But
Bornholm, I think, because it had this sexual, because it was basically about. It wasn't really about class, even though there was a kind of a bit of a white.
It's kind of irrelevant, though. I think the class bit.
There was a little bit of a mocking of their their sort of the gilet. They obviously
expensive bikes
and stuff, and then the materialism of the guy really loves his bike and gets more worried about losing his bike than his wife and all this stuff. But essentially, it was about sexual frustration, and it was emasculation. And about people not being able to say things, and I thought it handled really well. I think maybe because the subject matter was this quite overwhelming, shockingly dark sexual act or sexual transgression.
Yeah.
That meant that the stakes were different. And there was this there was something really unknown and difficult to handle as a viewer. That then opened up all this other uncertainty that was happening. Whereas when in an Ostlund film, because he's always basically just trying to tell you that what to think about these people, and so
he's really didactic.
The guy maybe takes his phone before he takes his children when the avalanche happens, because he doesn't really, he's so kind of alienated, he doesn't really care about his family, and he's so this film didn't have that. Like everyone was basically trying their best, but
this is Ostlund, right? And I think there was a sense where it embraced the ambiguity. Characters weren't really stereotyped in a way. Like you've got the kind of midlife crisis guy, but he's still he's not shown to be a complete I suppose cuck or
there's an affectionate humor around all the characters.
All the characters are allowed space to kind of embrace their own, I guess, psychological ambiguities and whatever their nuances as characters. I think there's one of the great things about this film as well, which is something that Ostlund struggles with. It is really beautiful at points. It's not consistently beautiful, but I think there are some use of crane shots to establish a sense of height over the campsite, which is already quite a churgy environment in a way. It's quite hard to make
churgy meaning kind of
just normie kind of that kind of thing. So it's quite hard to make something that's twee and normie look ravishing, but you get these crane shots where we see at one moment, as it were, really the protagonist, which is the wife of the more established couple, who's our kind of main our hero in this film. Her floating out to sea on her back, and the crane lifts up, and there's this amazing kind of I guess what we generously call almost bisexual lighting, but natural. It's natural bisexual lighting, organic bisexual lighting.
From the sunset.
And it's an amazingly beautiful moment. We see another scene like that where she's laying on the kind of couch bed in a caravan. It's shot through the roof window.
If it could only have just gone on for 10 minutes, I would have really become very charitable toward this film.
I think it's a good film. I think it's a really good film. I think it's it's comedic punches landed consistently.
Totally. It was great fun to watch. Yeah.
It was really good fun to watch. It was, brilliantly made. It was, you know, it kind of, in a way that, like, I don't know, in a way that, you know, Ruben Ostlund is telling you, he's writing a piece in Gorka. He's telling you something. He's summarizing the state of the nation. And this film wasn't. It was saying a more humane story about people's foibles, weaknesses, self-delusions, without really caricaturing them in a high progressive
Yeah, and there was
way.
a compassionate, affectionate nudge to it. You know, there was a feeling that, yeah, this is like this is, we all are a bit like this sometimes.
Yeah, because it kind of asks, like, well, what would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
Which is something that Ostlund doesn't do really. He's like, you
Ostlund
think, oh,
does,
I'm not
but
that
Ostlund does in
person,
like
you
a
know.
taunting way. Ostlund because he does have a very middle class audience. You know, in his films, like the people who vote for his films to win the Palme d'Or every year that he makes, puts a film in the
True, it's true.
are part of the world he's trying to ridicule. Yeah,
Woo and ridicule.
and they feel good about watching his. This has become more of a review of Ostlund, really. But they like having their belly tickled, as you would say. I think that's a kind of ridiculous way for a film to function. What I liked about this was it was also, it kind of had that very fashionable, like, you know, tickling the rich thing, but it also just functioned as a drama.
Well, it took the people out of their context. You know, it's, you know, we didn't see them in their presumably very fancy, well-equipped homes. We saw them, you know, in a caravan site, on a beach where, you know, kind of the material culture wasn't really allowed to express itself and overwhelm them. So it kind of it took certain implications about the kind of people they were, which is obviously like well-to-do, bourgeois, middle-aged people, but took them out of their context, out of their environment, you know, on this kind of little sandy cove, basically. And I think that was, you know, that was an interesting way of doing both. But yeah, it was very beautiful at times, not consistently. There's some quite special moments where the wife, again, our kind of hero, ends up having this quite passionate tryst with a local man. You remember on his boat?
Oh, this beardy fella.
Big old beardy
fella. And he's he's a bit chubby and he's kind of weird, but like there's something.
He's got a sort of Big Lebowski.
Yeah, there's a schlubby vibe, but he's very attractive because he's so completely opposite of the guy she's with.
He's like self-actualized and confident.
He's just doing whatever he wants, and he's not anxious. And he doesn't really ask anything of her.
No.
Yeah, she's very glamorous. She's very well cast. She plays this kind of harried but still hot,
really compelling,
kind of
hot, like mum, basically.
A MILF with, you know, it's very stylish and nice to see her. You know, because for a film, a good film, you do. You know, I sound like a screenwriting guru or whatever, but you do need to take the character from A to B, you know. And what the fun thing I would say about the film we watched earlier, whatever it's called, Illusion.
The powerlessness of illusion
by Marty Minaret. You know, we have you know, we don't really see her change at all. No. Nothing.
Superficially, we see her have like a kind of breakdown, but it doesn't.
Exactly,
you
but
know,
she doesn't.
It's very shallow.
No one in that. So as a film, people die in the film, but no one really changes.
No one grieves really.
And so nothing. And so you don't. You basically you can't really learn anything about humanity.
You're going a bit Mark Commode with your cadence right now. Are you aware of that?
I've had a lot of.
Well, yeah.
I haven't. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
You can't really learn anything about a character or about life if you don't see some change. If someone just stays constantly the same, and there's no even if they stay, it works if they stay the same and there's some humor kind of like undermining it. But if there's a totally somber stasis, as there was in Illusions, then you're fucked.
You are fucked. That's the official word. I mean, I think a film like fucking Bornholm as well. It was kind of classically structured, you know, in a sense, and it does mean something to have a film that if you are going to make a sort of tight feature length film that is going to take us from A to B or A to Z, then you need to kind of follow this you know, maybe a 3-act structure or something, and follow these kind of narrative beats and have moments of crisis and moments of catharsis and moments of realization, and it does it really, really well. But it's still does all of those things. The skeleton of the plot is there, and there's narrative momentum, but it also finds time and moments for the sublime and for beauty and for reflection and for a film just being a film and showing us a scene and someone being embodied and present in a scene and allowing light and shadow to function and to tell us a story as well. And I think so. It was very surprising. Yeah, I went in with no expectations, to be honest, and then came away thinking this is actually a really solid film.
But the point I would make about structure is again quite general, but like I genuinely believe every good film follows basically through a structure, basically a conventional
structure. Even Tango does.
Tango, Stalker, Mirror, Inland Empire, like all films that we enjoy at the end of it. It basically followed a structure. Dogstar Man, I'm sure.
Dogstar Man follows a 4-act. The first act is the preface. And it doesn't count,
true. But they observe a structure. They respect our need as human beings for like some kind of orientation within a thing, and to be able to feel that we know broadly, like when we're near the end of something, which is the quality of something that has a structure. And that's a slight thing sometimes, but Jean Dielman, we could do a whole podcast on Jean Dielman. Maybe one day we will. But like that is a film that, on very superficial level, is extremely different from conventional films, and that's why it was such a hoo-ha when it got #1 of Sight and Sound. But like, it is a film that actually follows every Hitchcockian principle about how to make a film, and follows every like sort of screenwriter's guru principle about like building tension and development of a character. But like, like every unconventional film actually follows the important conventions. Yeah. And that's fine, because we still have huge latitude in every other way. And when you see a film that's actually super conventional in all the superficial ways, like Illusion, and then structurally it's nowhere. It doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't know where it's beginning or ending. It's just sort of like flopping. It didn't know which
points were moments of catharsis. It didn't know which points were points of divergence. Like it was like it gave us some things that seemed profound, but it didn't take us anywhere. It's like it was saying this is an important moment. She's doing. We can see her reflected in a pond, and she's pulling a button out of the pond. And we think, okay, well this, but then that doesn't really.
In Kieslowski, that button would be like. I can't even imagine, but it would be important.
It would be to take it back to Kiarostami. It would be it'd be like the book. Where's the friend's home? Like the book. All the emotional significance in that film is in the relationship between this little boy. Yeah, preloaded. Whereas the buttons just feel like a desiderata. They're just like stuff that you've got in your drawer. It just becomes nothing. Yeah, but fucking Bornholm does it really well, and it does it almost with this kind of like chintzy, banal material culture, like. Pasta and sandwich making and all these kind of like quite holiday activities that are a little bit completely unsexy and like ordinary. I think that is why it's successful. So when the main character does have her kind of break, and she not only rejects her husband but her husband's friend, where there's an intimation of a dalliance there. She rejects him. She rejects ultimately this schlubby fat guy. She rejects everything about even the island itself in a way, because she returns home. And there's an amazing moment at the end where we see her on the ferry going back, presumably to Poland, and her husband decides not to come with her at first, and then he changes his mind, and he has this. It's kind of almost like a rom-com trope. He rushes, he gets hitches in a car to kind of come to the port, and he arrives a bit too late. So the ferry.
He's left behind his caravan.
He's left behind his caravan
because she took the car.
Yeah, and you think maybe a conventional rom-com or something might have him jump into the water and swim to the ship, but obviously that would be impossible, right? So you got this moment, and it's just separation, and watching him kind of drift away is very cathartic, and it's it manages to be very conventional as an ending, but also very nice to look at,
correct,
and kind of funny as well in a way, and funny and tragic, and I keep saying cathartic because I'm running out of words, but it feels cathartic, the ending, in a way. And I think so again, fucking Bornholm does all these like narrative beats really really smartly.
An apt opening to Kinoteka
Yeah, that was the
Bornholm.
first.
And it's been
Kinoteka
picked up by a distributor, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has a UK distributor. I don't know
Okay,
if
that's
I'm breaking an omerta by saying that, but oops, sorry. But it does.
That's fine. Do we know which one?
I don't know which distributor, no. But so it will be. I
Hopefully.
presume it will like maybe come to the Picture House or something.
That'd be good.